Welcome once again to Chelan County Connection. I'm your host, Randy Roadz. It is National Corrections Officers Week, and what a great time to have the director of the Chelan County Regional Justice Center, Chris Sharp, on the program. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Randy. We really appreciate the time to be able to share, especially for our week that we're honored by President Ronald Reagan. He did this proclamation back in the 80s, and I try to send something out every year about Corrections Officer Week to honor our fellow corrections deputies in what we do throughout the year in our line of work.
And I'd like to start off by saying thank you for your service. We know it's a tough and challenging job.
Well, thank you very much. It definitely has its challenges each day, but we have a lot of dedicated staff that are committed to public service. And I think oftentimes it gets lost in transition that corrections is a part of the law enforcement team in the Valley. We're part of the judicial system. We do our part in our role, which is housing the incarcerated until the courts say they are to be moved on to prison, or they're free to go, or they've committed or their time served in our facility. But we do house them, and that is our job. And that is a really tough job that a lot of people don't understand what correction officers do for our Valley. Because lots of times we're behind four walls and nobody really hears about us. So that's what's my job is, to tell all the great things that we do and why we do it.
You know, Chris, we talk about it being a very challenging career choice. And just last week, a corrections deputy was attacked by two incarcerated individuals. What can you tell us about what's going on in that?
So what I can, I'll be brief on this. I'm not allowed to say a whole lot about the situation because obviously it's a pending investigation. I will tell you that I've been in this facility going on 24 years coming up, and we have never seen this level of an attack. We've had officer assaults over the years. I've been assaulted as an officer working the floors, but never to the level of the calculation that this was. I mean, they were charged with aggravated murder first, which means it was, the charge in itself says what it was. It was calculated. It was targeted. It's just a really sad situation because we've done a lot of things in our facility to build our reputation with our incarcerated individuals and build a rapport and a relationship with them that they have to follow the rules, and we'll respect them while they're there as long as they respect the rules. And, it boils down to a trust and respect things. And sometimes, incarcerated individuals get frustrated with the process, and you hate to see it get to this level. But it is a shocking event for us. It was very, very eye-opening to a lot of people, as I have 27 staff members that have 3 years or less experience working in corrections. So it probably was the first time they saw one of their individual fellow coworkers being carried out on a stretcher. But that is what we do. It is what we signed up to do. We are there to protect and to serve. And our officers doing well, and the teams are carrying out the mission. We go on. We don't get a stop. We relied on our staff that day. Where the training that we do, that we excel in, really helped us just de-escalate the situation with the minimum amount of injuries that we could to the incarcerated individual, as well as stopping the threat on the officer at the time. And we value each other there. We're one big family. I mean, we take care of each other day in and day out. We spend a lot of time with each other. So this really hit home for a lot of staff, even us veteran officers, because of the traumatic event that it was. But we're getting through it, and we will continue to train, and we will continue to rise above and do what we're supposed to do to serve our community.
Joining us this time out on Chelan County Connection, director of the Chelan County Regional Justice Center, Chris Sharp. And Chris, pull the curtain back and a little bit about what brought you to this job and your background.
So I was born and raised here in the Valley. I went to the military. I joined the military, served 8 years in the United States Air Force before returning back to the Valley. I was hired on at the jail in 2000. I wanted to go to the field. That was my intent, was to become a law enforcement officer and serve out there. I decided that the jail liked me and I liked it, so I got promoted. Early on, I was promoted to corporal. After I sat at corporal for about 10 years because we didn't have a lot of movement in our facility. So I finally promoted to sergeant in 2016. And in 2019, we had a change of administration. I was selected to be the chief deputy of administration at that time. And then I was fortunate enough to apply and be picked by the Chelan County Board of County Commissioners April 1st of 2020 to serve as the director, which I've been now for a little over 3 years. Um, it's one of those things that people say it picks you, your career picks you, or you pick it. I've always been a public servant. I like to serve the community. That's why I joined the military. I wanted to serve my country. Long generation of military in my family. Also, I am a third generation Chelan County employee. My grandfather was the Chelan County deputy sheriff for 20 some years, retired, Ralph Dempsey. And then my dad worked in the jail/dispatch in the 1970s to 76 before he went on to work at Douglas County. So I'm actually a third generation Chelan County employee as far as law enforcement goes, and I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed being the director because I have been a deputy that served the floor. I walked the floors. I did the job as a floor deputy, as a line staff member. I did all the duties they're doing today. I faced all the same challenges they're facing today, maybe not to the level they're facing right now with the different types of drugs we're dealing with, but that's a whole nother topic. And being able to relate to them when they have problems as their director, they can look at me and know that I also cleaned the floors, fed the incarcerated, did all the duties that is expected of a line level staff member. And I've really enjoyed being able to share those experiences with the younger staff and be there to support them in that. Jail, it's not for everybody. It's just not. Why is it a good choice? Sometimes, like I said, again, it chose me. My goal was to go out in the field, but I really enjoyed working with the incarcerated. I love the challenges that it brought every day. You have to be a good communicator. We can give you all the training in the world, and we can give you all these fancy tools on your belt and all these things that you need to defend yourself and all those things. But the best thing we can give our people is being able to communicate and have empathy and show that they matter regardless of why they're in jail. They're somebody's family member. It is not, we're just the middle of the road. We're not the courts. We're not the jury. We're not the arresting agency. We're the people that are supposed to help them through their incarceration, keep them safe and secure. And we really pride ourselves on being able to do that in our facility. And I think if you care about people, then this, it's one of those things where you can just really learn to interact with challenging environment and challenging individuals that really have a hard time following the rules before they get to jail.
Chris Sharp joining us on Chelan County Connection. And Chris, I was hoping you wouldn't be too modest about this, but I wanted to ask about you've taught nationally for corrections.
Yeah, I did. I actually put a couple courses together that I went to. I was actually an opportunity to go to the NIJO Elite Academy, which was a national jail commanders course that was held down in Utah. And I spoke at this conference. I was at the conference to learn, but I was talking about some of the things we were doing at the Chelan County Jail with our drug interdiction program, our bed check inspection that we're doing, which is an incentive program for the incarcerated individuals to earn TVs and incentive meals and those things. And the owner of NIJO was so impressed that he actually invited me to teach these classes, these courses. So I put the courses together, and I was actually went down to Alabama last year, Huntsville, Alabama. And I taught some classes on what we're doing here in the Chelan County Jail. And I've been invited back to do that again this year. I'm not going to be able to make the Arizona one, but they also want me to come back to Alabama again, and then another one in Indiana in October. It's very hard for me to leave my facility to go do these things, but I also understand that Chelan County Jail is putting itself on the map with everything we've been able to do in the last few years with our programs and enhancing our safety and security and those things. So yeah, I was proud of it, but I'm more proud of the agency being able to pull off those things that I could actually go teach on what our staff are doing and what we've been able to implement in our facility.
As members of the public, we drive by Washington Street and King Street. We see the facility. We don't really know what goes on inside. Give us an inside look what it's all about at the Chelan County Regional Justice Center.
So we house up to 267 individuals. That's how many beds we actually have. We have not had 267 individuals in there since pre-COVID. Actually, for even a year or so before COVID, we were running about 200. We go through cycles in the judicial system, at least in my experience as a director and as a deputy here. The state and the people will ask for, punish everybody, lock them up, give them steep sentences, throw away the key. And then you get into a treatment cycle where, we need to really figure out how to treat these people for their addictions. And so the state spends lots of money and we get people out for drug treatment programs. And we're probably we're on a treatment cycle right now. Everybody wants to help people get through their addictions. They want to help them with their social disorders, their mental health. but a day in a life. I mean, we right now this morning we had 191 individuals in the facility. We actually house for City of East Wenatchee, the City of Wenatchee, Douglas County Sheriff's Department. We house for the U.S. Marshals on occasion when they need to house somebody here and there. We also have a contract with the Department of Corrections for community custody violators that are in our area, so our DOC can house people in here and take care of their hearings here, which prevents them from having to go to prison to do that. And then we house, people sometimes for Grant County or Kittitas County on warrants, so we can swap those prisoners out when we need to change them with each other. They have some of ours, we have some of theirs. Currently, we have 53 authorized correction positions. We only have 49 deputies right now, and that corrections deputies includes all the way up to me. So you're looking at the 2 chiefs and the director are included in that. So we're 4 short. We have 23 support staff authorized position. That includes our nurses, our kitchen staff, our control room operators, our educators, and our mental health staff. We're down 3 nurses. We've been down to 3 nurses for almost over a year because nurses are a hot commodity and it's really tough to get them to come work in a jail. Our jail's going on 40 years old. We need to really start talking about what it looks like to build a new jail in our community. This is not the jail of the future for this valley. I only have a few years left. I want to be a part of what that looks like, standing up a new jail as far as the planning committee. Realistically, I don't think that'll happen within 6 to 10 years, but that's my window is 6 to 7 years. So we're going to have to replace it. We're going to have to move on from this facility. It's the lifespan of a facility, 25 years, your pipes and your electrical and all that stuff starts wearing out. And especially when you're talking about a 24-hour building, 24/7, constantly being used, toilets, showers, water, power, electricity, we're wearing out. Looking at what I've tried to do since I've been the director, one of my focuses wanted to make sure that the staff knew exactly what they had as far as their leadership goes. And I've always been a person that wanted to lead from the front. I want to be there for them, understand that our mission, vision, and values matter, and what we do in the public's eye matters to our service. We didn't have a lot of that prior to Bill Larson coming in, our interim director. We just had a lot of administrators that were just kind of filling those positions, in my opinion. Good people, just not looking at it from the angle that I do. And my vision is the people. Without our people, we don't have a successful operation, and we need to make sure we're taking care of them every day in every aspect that we can.
Chris, you've been with the outfit for 23 years. What changes have you seen, and what do you see in the near future?
Well, it's come a long ways in the time I've been there. When I first started the facility, our jail was pretty much a misdemeanor offender facility. We probably housed 80% of the population was, 75 to 80% was misdemeanors or gross misdemeanors, which are, your violations that are, again, you're not going to spend more than a year in jail, and on a misdemeanor, you're not going to spend more than 90 days in jail. That is completely flipped over. The other 20% would have been felons. Now we're pretty much housing 80% felons. As I said a little bit earlier, the courts have gone into the treatment cycle, so a lot of the misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors are getting out with shorter jail sentences. We have a lot of felons in our facility, and I would say that's about 80%. 75 to 80% of our people in our facility are sitting there waiting for trial or waiting for jurisdiction or judification for their charges through the Superior Court system. And obviously, that was hung up really bad through COVID. We couldn't do trials and all those things, but we're catching up. But it's still, our population that's what's staying in jail is a lot of our felony crimes, which as a public citizen, I would want that. You want these people to stay there because they're the ones that need to have the process of how do they get help, or do they have to pay through a jury trial or through a judge, or pleading guilty for their crimes. One of the things that we've really focused on in our facility is the drug interdiction program. I've talked to you about that before. We got the mail screener, the body scanner, and of course K9 Kate, which is our home run. The one I'm most proud of is the mail screener and the body scanner are ran by humans, and we make mistakes all the time, and the dog doesn't make mistakes. So super proud of that drug interdiction program. And it really has eliminated a lot of the drugs coming into our facility that we used to have to deal with on a daily occasion. We actually expanded a little bit to help the community out, push the program for school resource officers to utilize K9 Kate and Deputy Lewis in the schools. We have contracts with several of the schools. Aniette, Manson, we just signed another one for Cascade today, Eastmont School District, Chelan. We're excited about the program. The program basically is, Kate, if a school resource officer feels like they might have a probable cause or a search, then they can call upon Kate. And if we as administration are able to free her up because obviously her primary duties are for the facility. But this was a way for us to give back to the community because the community supports the canine program. So we're super excited about that program, getting Jacob out there, going along. And if it's nothing else, it's a deterrent. When the kids at these schools that might be doing things they shouldn't be doing, see a drug dog on location, maybe they won't bring it to the schools. And we're never going to stop drugs in our community. I mean, I'm an optimist that would like to say we would, but we're probably not. But the goal for the drug addiction program of the jail was to keep the drugs out of the jail. And that's what we're trying to do for the schools, is to help deter the people from bringing those things to the schools. We've been focusing on trying to incentivize programs in the facility, our bed check incentive program, to help with incarcerated behavior deal with us better. So if they act good and they pass inspection every morning, they can receive the big screen TV. I know people get a little weirded out about giving people incarcerated rewards, but at the end of the day, you might be dealing with people that have never had to do anything to learn to clean, to sweep, to do those things. And so we're actually incentivizing them having to keep their cell clean, have good behavior towards our staff. And we haven't lost one of the TVs. They don't break them. They want to keep them. So we're doing really good over that with helping that behavioral issue with the staff, between the staff and the incarcerated. We've done a lot of upgrades to security. We put cuff ports in all of our security doors we didn't have before. We've got camera system we upgraded. We're still upgrading the camera system. We're still trying to put more cameras into our individual cells. And those are for safety for the individuals incarcerated, as well as protection for staff against falsification, abuse of force. We can also prove that if a person was housed alone under camera, that they weren't assaulted by anybody, let alone a staff member or another individual. So camera system was huge. Enhancing the safety and security in a 40-year-old building can be very tough. Trying to put today's technology into an old building, but we're getting there. But again, we also have to weigh how much do we put into this building that can't be transferred to a new facility. We have to be conscientious of the dollars we spend here, at the same time maintaining a safe environment for our staff and the people who are entrusted to care for. The drugs have changed lots. When I first started here, it was heroin and alcohol. And then in the mid 2000s, it went to meth, and saw that deteriorate a lot of people. Then kind of switched back to heroin again, became the choice of drug. And now obviously it's fentanyl. Fentanyl is a big problem with our across the nation. We're experiencing it daily here. We have 10 to 15 people on higher level of care, which higher level of care means they need to be seen by the nurse, by a nurse at least a minimum of 2 times a day, if not 3 or 4. We have staff checking on them every hour. We're really conscious of wellness, which is kind of weird in the correctional setting. As a correction officer, our job is safety and security, but we've moved into where I really have to seek out the welfare of these people and making sure they're okay. But it's a problem, and honestly, I believe we're at the tip of this. We're at the tip of the spear of fentanyl. It's still going to run a long course here before we get through how that looks and how it gets fixed. The big thing we're trying to do right now is find qualified employees. We're all competing for, all the law enforcement agencies and the correction agencies are all competing for the same high caliber individuals we're looking for: honesty, integrity, sound work ethic. We have 3 people in the chute right now, but we used to have, when we do a test, we had 100 people apply. And now you might get a group of 10, and that might whittle down to 2 or 3 that you're actually going to get hired on. So it's a challenging environment right now for the hiring, and we don't really see that fixing itself for the future. So we've got to do things internally to build up the people we have and hold on to the staff we have now so they don't move on some other place. What's that retention and sustainability program look for us as far as our staffing levels?
Chris Sharp is our guest on Chelan County Connection, the director of the Chelan County Regional Justice Center. 23 years. Congratulations on that. And thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. I don't look at it as something that I take lightly. It is one of those things that I try to instill our new officers, how prideful we should be about the job that we do, and the patch that we wear on our sleeve should mean something to us each and every day.
Say, Chris, before we cut you loose, what would you like the constituents and the public to know about the jail?
Well, there's a lot of things. I could speak on this for a long time, Randy, to be honest with you. But one of the things I really want the public to know is how hard it is to do our job. The things that a correction officer and our nurses and our support staff have to deal with on a daily basis with mental health. As I was speaking about just a few moments ago, safety and security is our primary duty. But we've moved into triage and wellness and treatment. As correction officers, we're not trained to do that, but we're learning how to adapt and overcome and really seek out what individuals need. And it's becoming very labor intensive for correction officers to spend the time they need to spend with somebody maybe that's on the ledge, that they don't feel like they want to live anymore. And we just don't throw people on suicide watch. We try to ask them, we try to talk to them, we try to get them to, we didn't have to do those things before. And right now this environment is so challenging. I really have to pat all of our officers on the back for the job they do every day. I'm over there a lot. I go to the jail at least 2 to 3 times a day, if not more, checking on people, making sure things are going. And the environment is just challenging. I mean, at some point you might have somebody trying to hurt you. You might have somebody swearing at you. You might have to go put somebody in a restraint chair or a wrap because they're trying to hurt themselves, and you're trying to do the right thing for them, but they don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, and they don't want to be in jail. And I think that the one thing I want people to know is just how important corrections is to a community, what it means to actually have a facility in your community, and understanding what it takes to go in and out of that facility day in and day out for year after year, to be committed to that. It's really just, I really pride myself on being able to get this out there to people, because we've kind of the unsung heroes. And I don't use that term loosely. I don't want to be like, well, we're not law enforcement, we're not firefighters, because we're not. But at the end of the day, if our local law enforcement saves somebody on the sidewalk, it'll be on the front page of the paper. It always is. Hey, they saved a life, they saved a drowning victim, they did CPR on the sidewalk. That happens in our jail day to day. I mean, it can happen any day. We're doing CPR or saving a life, and we're not looking for that recognition, and we don't need the paper. But my job is to highlight those things that they are doing, that they're not getting the pats on the back for, and that they're just really in there being very courageous and willing to do the tough job that so many people don't want to do and don't want to be a part of.
Chris Sharp, thanks for joining us on this edition of Chelan County Connection. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate the time as always.